Hi, everybody. Welcome to the In the Bullseye Podcast. I'm voice of the Bulls, Paul Peck, with UB women's basketball head coach Becky Burke. A chance to catch up with you, Becky, as you're kind of heading into that February, which leads to March, which leads to the best time of the year. And I would say that you've got to be feeling like maybe they're not playing their best basketball, but you're pretty darn close right now with the way your ladies are just churning out wins these days.
Yeah, it's hard to believe we're at this point in the season so far, and it's gone by in the blink of an eye, and at the same time it's taken 5 years to get here. So it's that point in the season where we're really starting to catch our rhythm, and I do feel like our best basketball is in front of us and yet to be played, which is where you want to be feeling right now, but also at the same time you want to feel like it's right in front of you and you're going to be peaking at the right moment. So I feel like that about our team, and practices have been going really smooth. Obviously we're 19-2 and you can't complain too much about that, and we're taking it day by day, step by step, and I've been really proud of the growth that I'm continuing to see. I don't feel like we're taking steps backwards. I think we're continuing every day to take a step forward.
Do you have to talk to your team and from your experience to know that, obviously you want to be playing your best basketball as you move through the month of February to get ready for whatever your conference tournament is? Is that something you talk to your team, or do you just sort of let it evolve naturally?
Yeah, I'm not big on talking about that and putting pressure on them that we need to be playing our best basketball. I believe in our process, and if we continue to practice the way that we practice and build our habits and just stick to the game plan, as far as our season progression goes, that will inevitably happen. And it has every year, for us, and so far in my head coaching career, and just letting that process, happen and staying true to everything that you stand for every single day and not backing off of that as coaches as far as our expectations and our standards. Because I think that's when you don't get to reach your peak or play your best basketball, is when our standards or our expectations as coaches or our ability to hold them accountable lacks just because we are 19-2. I'm coaching them like we're 2-19 right now.
Yeah, well, the process is always about your defensive effort, which has been amazing all season long. Number one in the conference in almost every defensive stat. I know it's what you believe in, and it's who you are, and it's what you work on with your team. But have you seen it even evolve differently on how they've accepted playing some of the best defense that anybody in the country is playing?
Yeah, we can put in as much structure defensively as we want, and as many habits and principles and what we stand for on the defensive end. And, it comes down to the players making plays, and it comes down to Lonnie getting the steal with instincts, and Cito, shooting a passing lane, and Chella just doing what she does, and their athleticism. And so much of it is what we put in place, and so much of it is our players making high-level basketball competitive plays. And so it's kind of fun to see that balance and, see those two things work together, which inevitably makes us an elite defensive team.
You mentioned Cito, and you're talking about Satota Henness. Since you put her in the starting lineup, your defense seems to have taken another step forward. Not a coincidence, I assume?
No, that was the tone that I wanted to set with inserting her in that lineup, was the fact that we do value defense. That's what we do care about, and she's completely set a totally different tone being on the floor defensively, which then in turn has given a lot of value offensively as well.
You've also gotten contributions from some of the other players that aren't maybe the ones that we see as much of, and I'm thinking particularly of a Jordan Beatty, who had a career-high performance against Northern Illinois, within the last week or so. How important is it to have some of those players start to give you, maybe it's only 10 or 12 minutes a night, but it's an incredible 10 or 12 minutes?
Yeah, the depth is something that we've talked about, all year, and the fact that we have 8 or 9 players that we have all the confidence in the world to put in the basketball game. That is not a luxury I've had, in my 2 and change years here at Buffalo, to have a deep bench or have people that can come off the bench and you feel good about the play not dropping and actually them adding value. So, Jordan stepping up. We've been a team where it's been anybody's game on any given night, and they have those flashes and those moments, and it's been so special, to have 4 or 5 in double figures every time we step foot on the floor, and have comfort in knowing that. Jordan was a double figure scorer the other night, and I don't think she's been in double figures all season, but it was her time, it was her number was called, and she was ready for the moment. So it's been really, really cool, and it takes a lot of pressure off Kirsten and Chella and Lonnie. Chella had to have close to 30 last year for us to have a chance to win. And she did that. She did that a lot last year.
Yes, she did.
But, I think it's nice for Chella to say, hey, I can have 18 to 20 and we're still going to win a basketball game. I think that's pretty cool.
You mentioned the core three, or, the 3 players that kind of make your team go, and that is Chella, that is Lonnie Cornfield, that is Kirsten Lewis-Williams. What steps have you seen them take forward to become even better players this season?
I just think like leadership, I think experience. You talk about Kirsten just being a sophomore. She's got experience now. She's been through the MAC. She knows what to expect from a leadership standpoint. She's taken a tremendous jump. Same thing with Chella, just as far as like that leadership. This is her last year. What is she getting out of her teammates? What is she demanding out of them? What is she demanding out of herself? Lonnie coming in as a senior to a team and not knowing anybody and not knowing how to lead people in the right way and having to get to know and make relationships and like really find her way and find her voice, which I think she's done in like just the best way, really finding her groove and how to talk to her teammates and lead this team that you're stepping into for your final year. That's got to be a weird feeling, and other people to accept her doing that. So it's just been really cool. And it's so much of its time. You can't like rush any of this stuff, and you can't rush seeing Kirsten turn into a sophomore, and you can't rush Chella's leadership or Lonnie's, comfort level with her new team. And so it takes time. And now, 21 games in, you're starting to see that stuff really evolve and show. And it's been really, really awesome.
After a couple of the epic comebacks your team had this year, the Vermont game, the Miami game, both triggered by incredible third-quarter turnarounds, I started to think about it a little bit, and as I get ready for the ESPN Plus broadcast, started to kind of run the numbers a little bit. Your team is well over 150 points more than your opponents scored in the third quarter. There is no other MAC team that is anywhere. I think the only other MAC team is Ball State, and they're around 50 points better. Most of the MAC teams are on the negative in the third quarter. What does that stat tell us about your team and maybe about whatever it is you talk to that team in that halftime locker room?
I think it can tell you two different things. I think it can tell you we mess around in the first half and we don't do what we're supposed to do.
Okay.
So we have to put ourselves in that position. But no, just our ability to make adjustments at halftime as coaches and then articulate that to our players and get them to understand the message and the adjustments. And sometimes it's X's and O's adjustments. Sometimes it's game plan adjustments. And then sometimes it's them just focusing and stop letting this team hang around and stop messing around with these guys and put your foot on the gas. So every game's been different, but we have been a really strong third quarter team, which has really, really helped us. And so I'm usually not happy that we're in that position to have to make those adjustments and figure it out. But I'm very thankful that they do, and they do respond after halftime in whatever way we challenge them.
Does that say something about the fortitude of a team? Is that a stat that you could connect that dot to?
Yeah, I mean, our team is tough as nails. I mean, I'm their coach. They're not a bunch of softies, right? Like they take tough coaching and criticism and accountability with the best of them. So to come in the locker room and challenge those guys and see them respond the way they do is not surprising because they get it every single day. All
right, so as you look forward here to this final month or so that is left of the season, and again, just to set yourself up to get back and continue to do the things that you've done in Cleveland. You got another rematch with Ball State. You'll have another game with Toledo. I believe you have another game with Kent State. So what are you gonna learn about your team? What are we gonna learn about your team through some of those games against the teams that have started to separate themselves?
Yeah, I think we're going to learn a lot. Like, our loss against Ball State earlier in the season, we weren't going to win a MAC championship or lose one on that day, but that was a measuring stick for us to see where we needed to get to in the next 6 or 7 weeks for when we play them again. So it's going to be another measuring stick game. And, ultimately, as much as I love this league and how competitive it is and how great records are, like you have to win the one in Cleveland. And that's what we understand and we know. We have really, really challenging, tough games in front of us to finish this back end of the MAC. But we understand it's important that you could lose to a team 3, 4, or 5 times in a row. You have to beat them in Cleveland, which is what we've done the last couple of years.
All right. Well, it has been fun to watch your team just continue to take steps forward, undefeated non-conference, at the top of the Mid-American Conference standings through the first month. And like I said, there's going to be a lot more fun games to come down the road. And maybe if you can get those ladies to come out and start better, we won't talk so much about the cool third quarter stats. As much as I know that you like what it says about your team, you probably would prefer that we're not talking about it.
Correct. Yes. I think that's, again, just getting better, evolving, playing our best basketball, and learning, hopefully.
All right. Well, we are learning that it has been an amazing season, and Becky Burke continues to do an amazing job. Congratulations on the season so far. Good luck down the stretch.
Thank you so much.
Becky Burke, UB women's basketball head coach, joining us on the In the Bullseye podcast.